We've got some brand new Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine lore, and it's dedicated to one of the most unluckiest chapters there is, the Lamenters. This is all taken from the brand new short story called Tears of Raphael by Richard Swan. A bunch of these short stories has been released this past week that tells of new stories set in the current storyline. So let's jump in and let's get waffling. As always, this video is going to contain massive spoilers as I'm going to be breaking down the story. So if you're currently reading it, if you plan on reading it and you don't want to be spoiled, please leave the video now. This is your first and only warning. Now, just so we're all on the same level of what has happened to Lamenters, I'm just going to do a quick, brief summary. Basically, the Lamenters are known as one of the most unluckiest chapters in the Imperium because a lot of tragedies have befell upon them, that they've lost a lot of Marines. One of the biggest things that happened to them is the Badab War, where they took the side of the Astral Claws, just like the Executioners did. We all know the Astral Claws and that side lost the War of Badab. Chapters like the Executioners and the Lamenters were then put on a penance crusade. When you put on a penance crusade, you are not allowed to recruit any new Marines to your chapter. If you die, you die. If you survive, you are deemed worthy by the Emperor, and then you can recruit. Now, according to the new law in this book, the Lamenters have done that penance crusade, but unlike the Executioners, which have received a lot of Primaris and their ranks are swelling, the Lamenters are still slowly rebuilding their chapter. And this is where we jump into the story and we follow the main character, a sergeant who is an eliminator known as Brother Ramios. Now, the planet this is taken on is being consumed by the Tyranids. The Lamenters, again, are still having bad luck. The planet itself has more or less fallen to this Tyranid foe. It's being transformed with like the biotech of the Tyranids being slowly consumed. Everyone in his squad has been wiped out. He's lost contact to other Lamenters squads as the Tyranid forces are literally consuming the planet in front of him. Now, as he's making his way throughout the city, he's trying to get into the southern part of the city to get out there to go to a supposed guard rally point, a Space Marine rally point, where he's hoping the last defense of the planet will be. As he's going through this city, he does come across a squad of Lamenters, but he sees them in the distance as they're holding off a huge swarm of Tyranids, and he spots in this massive crowd of Tyranids the Prime, the main one that's directing all the assaults, all the attacks onto this city, and he lines up his sniper rifle ready to take a shot, ready to take it out to save his brothers, but he just can't make it. He's actually attacked by some gaunts, and when he gets back, he sees his brothers being absolutely ripped apart, taken down by this huge Prime, taken down by the swarms and swarms of Tyranid forces. And there he makes an oath that he will hunt down, he will track down this Prime, and he will get his vengeance for him and his slain brothers. One side note in the story, the Lamenters were not the only chapter that were defending this world. There was another chapter that were called the White Panthers, who also stood with the Lamenters, but of course the Tyranid forces were too strong and they were consumed and they were overrun as well. Now, as the Eliminator Sergeant is moving through the city in the shadows, blending in stealthily, making his way to the south side of the city so he can get to that defense point and rendezvous with whatever forces are left, his Vox links begins to crackle, and it leads him to this huge pile of Xenos bodies. And when he pulls these bodies apart, he finds at the bottom of it one of his Lamenter brothers, Brother Dagan, who's an intercessor belonging to the 3rd Company. He pulls him out. He's still alive, but he's gravely injured. They share some words about the situation that they're in, and the Eliminator Sergeant tells the Intercessor his plan, and they both begin then moving throughout the city. But of course, as I mentioned, the Intercessor is gravely wounded. His wound that he's got is not closing properly. I know like Space Marines are supposed to close and stuff like that, but with all the fighting and what the Tyranids have done, it's not closing properly. It actually mentioned in the book like the sheer will of his Adeptus Astartes is making him go onwards, but he's only got a few hours to live before he more or less dies from this wound. Now, as they get to the outskirts of the city, they do spot this huge Tyranid force, It says around 10 miles in the distance. There's biovores that are launching massive artillery barges to this Astra Militarum staging area. This is the final defense of the planet, and the Tyranid forces are gearing up all their forces for one last assault to completely rid the planet of any Imperial forces. Now, this is where the Brother Eliminator and the Brother Intercessor start to make a plan to get the Prime to take down the main threat and cause mayhem within the Tyranid ranks. Ramios tells Dagon that he needs to get close to the Prime. He's only got one executioner bolt round left. He manages to hit it in the head, he can take it out, he can kill it, and as I said, cause mayhem within the ranks. Dagon agrees, and he says he's going to sacrifice himself. He knows he's dying, and they come across a previous battle of the White Panther chapter, and the Marines who have died sacrificing themselves still have like their grenades, crack grenades, and all like the ammunitions on him. So Dagon says, right, I'm going to fill myself up with as many grenades as possible and cause a huge distraction for you to take that kill shot. So we get then Brother Dagos leaving Brother Ramos, and it's this really like heartfelt scene, like, till we meet again, brother. And yeah, it's kind of heartwarming and stuff like that, because they basically know that they're going to their deaths. They're trying to kill this last big beast to stop this Tyranid force from consuming the planet, but it, of course, it's got to cost them their lives. So Brother Dagon then goes to his position and sets up, and Brother Ramaphos goes to his position with his sniper rifle, ready to take down the Prime. Now, the Intercessor Sergeant, who is lining up this shot and ready to take it, he's been fighting on this planet for a long time now, and because the planet is slowly being consumed by the Tyranids, so is his armor. His joints are not working right, his visual feed in his helmet is not working right, his scope's not working right, his weapon is not in the best condition, so he's more or less using his own senses, his own aim to take down this Tyranid beast, which is still miles away. By the way, this is not like a close, like 500-yard shot or something like that. It's literally miles on the horizon to take down this Tyranid Prime. Dagon has caused a distraction. Loads of gargoyles that are surrounding the Prime itself see the explosion. They think it's a huge threat. So, of course, the Tyranid Prime sends it to that location. They begin flying to Dagon, who is like firing grenades at him and shooting everything. He's managed to get more weapons along his way while he's in this building and stuff like that. And the Eliminator Sergeant lines up the Prime and he takes the shot. He pulls back on his trigger and nothing happens. The gun just clicks. The gun itself has broken down. It's not working. And the Intercessor Sergeant panics like, no, 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 no. And he's like, bends back down and he starts ripping the gun apart and he starts reassembling it. Of course, Brother Dagon is like in a last stand here with this distraction, shooting all these Tyranids. Once he's dead, the gargoyles are going to go back and they'll protect the actual Prime again. And we get this scene where the Brother Eliminator, sorry, I'm bloody losing my words here. The Eliminator is breaking down his gun and he's panicking, and then he puts it all back together, and then he lines up the shot. He's got like 10 seconds to line up the shot, and boom, he pulls the trigger. The gun makes this awful sound, but the execution round flies out, and it takes like a couple of seconds before it hits the target. Like, he rips his scope off his gun and he's trying to spot what's going on. It's like mile after mile after mile, and then boom, it hits the Prime in its eye and its head completely explodes. And now that the Prime has died, a huge psychic shockwave like knocks the Tyranids back. They begin ripping into each other because they've got no one now to control them or anything like that. Like, they're biting off their own tongues, they're biting off like tails of each other, just ripping each other apart. The Horde itself begins consuming itself, begins ripping each other apart, begins running away, scattering, doing what it does. Now the Intercessor, Dagon, there's another big explosion because of course he's like sacrificed himself while all this is going on, and the Eliminator Sergeant slings down his weapon. He doesn't care now about the Tyranids because they're all ripping themselves apart. He runs over to Brother Dagon's position, and he finds him in like just a pile of mess, like broken masonry. All his yellow armor is scorched. He actually says he looks like a part of the Death Company because his armor's that black with like the last big explosion he's done. And they have like a final word like, thank you, brother, you've done this. And the Intercessor says it's, you know, because it's it's my intercession kind of thing, which is kind of something that they joked about before in the actual novel. And he slowly fades out and he slowly dies. And then Ramaphos is left alone. He's still got his brother's hand in his hand, and he's like, I lament kind of thing. And he lays down and he's more or less dying now because, again, he's been in this planet, it's consumed him, it's just torn him down, but the skies begin to clear and you hear like artillery fire coming from the Astra Militarum as it starts pounding the southern parts of the city, and the sky is lit with Lamenters as Thunderhawks are dropping down, reinforcing the city to try and find survivors. And that is it. That is the end of the book. I personally really enjoyed the book. I thought it was a really good read. I wanted more, actually, because I wanted more background on these characters and like all the epic battles that were going on. Like, they were coming across like scenes of carnage and stuff. I'm like, oh man, I really want a full book breaking all this down. Like, what happened here? What happened there? What happened with the White Panthers? The only thing we know is that the White Panthers died just like the Lamenters did. But for what we got, I thought it was really, really cool. I liked how it was still a Lamenters story. Like, the character, well, I assume that the character did die at the end of it, and even though the Lamenters were reinforcing, they would just find their dead bodies. They died with their oaths, completed taking down that prime and kind of saving the planets, killing that prime, causing the Tyranid forces to consume and ravage each other and lose all sense of coherency and stuff like that. So yes, their oaths were fulfilled, but at the cost of their lives. A nice Lamenter end, because of course the Lamenters, nothing ever goes their way. They may win, but there's a lot of bad luck in between that. It's nice to get new stories, new novels of chapters like the Lamenters, the Executioners. I'm going to do some more of the other ones. I think the Raptor one is next on my agenda to do. Of these, like, you know, second founding kind of, well, let's say second founding, other founding chapters that are finally getting some love in the current lore. I really, really like what Games Workshop are doing. I really like what so far the authors have been doing with these stories as well. I'd massively recommend it. If you want to get the book yourself, link down in the description of the video. I've bought them all. I think it's like £10 to buy all the short stories. Definitely 100% worth it if you're a big Space Marine fan like me. Anyway, Chapter News, thanks for coming. Thank you for watching. Let's get your thoughts and feedback. Lamenters fans, do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you like that the Primaris are slowly coming back and reinforcing you? Like, I did forget to mention, like, the Primaris in this story crossed the Rubicon Primaris, because they were all like, you know, we are redeemed for Badab and stuff like that. So, you know, these have crossed the Rubicon Primaris. They weren't like brand new Primaris Marines or anything. Maybe I should have said that at the start of the video. Probably should have. Right, enough waffling. Thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. Thoughts, feedbacks down below. And my nice little chin wag down there, as we always do. See ya. Have a great day, and bye-bye.